Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to EU League, and it's EUL finals. These 2 weekends, BDS face off against G2 Esports. Welcome to the Analyst Desk. I'm Milos the Medic, your host. With me are Jack, aka Fresh. We got our very own Peacock here in the studio. Thank you very much, Des.
Thank you. It's weird to be back on this side of things.
Yeah.
I'm very used to the chairs over there. In it. Where did that come from?
Isn't it quite odd that you find yourself on
Isn't it? In it. Yeah, however you want to take it, whatever. It's nice to be back. And I think Fresh said earlier on, it's the first time we've actually stood/casted together in a official capacity. We won't talk about our qual streams. They don't count.
Those were
This is a bit
fun.
different.
Qual streams, charity streams, yeah.
Wednesday and Thursday, it's all kicking off again, isn't it? It's going to be good.
We're going to see G2, presumably.
For how long is the question?
That's the question.
For how long,
Before they get knocked out by Team Valor again.
At least it wasn't like Southampton. What was
Southampton Toilet Club.
Oh,
was the team they beat.
They didn't want to get casted by them, so we let them have that one. They won that one.
It was a swift 7-0.
Then they get on stream and they get knocked out.
All right, well, let's see today what G2 can offer against BDS. A lot will argue the best team currently in Europe, but actually that's Rogue, which is a team that is not present in these finals because we have to tally the entire year, all 3 stages, to get to where we are. And let's have a chat about G2. I have someone here on the desk that used to work for G2, and that was a while ago, but it's a different roster from what we had. But these are players that we've seen over the past couple stages doing their best, really.
Yeah, they definitely did the best in stage 2. They had a honeymoon period. Yonker and Hungry came in. They played very well through stage 2. That's what they're here off the back of, playing in EU finals. And you mentioned BDS as the best team in Europe. I think technically it's G2 because they are our reigning EU champions from last year. And as much as we don't see them as that now on current form, they do have quality. Citizen has quality. Virtue, we know, has quality. It just needs unlocking. So we're hoping, and I think they're hoping, that they can prove it to themselves, especially after, we've got to call it as it is, a very disappointing performance in the SI Open qualifiers.
I think they kind of lost their essence in stage 3. You look back at how the stats shaped up for them. Entry-wise, Citizen's playing pretty well. He's doing his thing that he normally does, but he was matched or exceeded on entry by 2 players. You had Kayak and Hungry getting involved in more entry battles than Citizen, which speaks volumes. I know Citizen isn't a conventional entry player, but to have those two, especially Kayak as a more supportive player, stepping up and getting involved at that level, was a bit weird. It wasn't clear who was filling what role, and more often than not, you'd see spots where, for example, Citizen was off site. He'd be left in a 1 versus 4 because they simply could not hold down site. And that speaks a lot towards the entry, I think, that they just couldn't hold down these key
locations. It's almost like they need a defined entry player to make that space that the Citizen can then clean up afterwards.
Exactly, and they don't have that right now. Virtue hasn't been himself since back in stage 1. We really need to see, especially I think him and Kayak, who we know have got great potential. We've seen it before. We need to see those two getting back on form if they're going to have any success here today.
Virtue stepped up a year ago. We'll see if they can do it again today with them. Now, BDS is on the other side. Of course, our French squad, runners-up French champions, made it to playoffs in Sweden. Not too bad, but the expectation is always more.
There's a saying that I've repeated since we first saw BDS at a major, and that saying goes, always the stage, never the spotlight. This is a team that will consistently make it into top 4. They've been to every major. They've been to SI. They've been at the finals, but they have yet to actually win a major event. Sure, they finished first in 1 stage of EUL. That's great. But outside of that, it's been second, it's been third, it's been fourth. It's been sometimes falling a little bit lower. And the question really came in for SI this year when it was in Paris on home turf. Is this the time they can do it? And no, they completely fall apart to TSM on Oregon, and it's not the kind of show that you come to expect. And I think at this point, they acknowledge themselves there is a weakness in this team. They brought in Bios just before Mexico, unannounced at that point. It was afterwards they revealed they had him on side. He's been with them for 4 months now. This is where we have to start seeing things get better. We have to see some adaptability if they're really going to improve things. But I think for me, the real challenge is going to come at the 6th Invitational when he's had a good 6 months with them. And I don't want to say they win SI, but we see a potential for a team to go on that can win.
I mean, he's been on for the past 10 minutes, so like...
No, I'm definitely not going to say BDS go on to win SI, but we need to see more stronger performances. They can't keep on slipping off at the, not the final hurdle, but near enough the final hurdle.
Our head-to-head. We got our 2 top-performing players from these 2 teams. Put them up on the screen. Who are they? Wow, surprise. Shaiko and Citizen. I'm going to blow your mind here today.
Wait a minute. So you've got Shaiko and you've got Shaiko's Shadow. Right, got it.
Shaiko's English cousin.
You've
in
just
this
annoyed
case.
half of the UK.
Oh, absolutely. At this point, it's not a hard thing to do.
No. I mean, Shaiko for his team, it used to be completely the Shaiko show, right? It's not anymore. It's the BDS show, and he's still producing those kind of numbers. When you look towards G2, as we said, it tends to be Citizen who's kind of the one that they rely on for the kills, for the big plays to pull them through rounds. And the other's not kind of really making up the numbers. But you can see that he can't do that consistently. Whereas Shaika, for the past year and a half, has just been doing it so consistently.
The really interesting thing is when you look back, and you and I had a little, not debate, but we had a debate / argument on a friendly fire episode we had to do, looking at who is the better player. On paper, it's Citizen. The numbers are higher in every single category when you look at them around rating, KD, entry, you name it. But without context, that doesn't really tell the full story, where Citizen has been on a team where he has to carry the torch for them. For Shaiko, as you said, he's on a team where he's surrounded by 4 other incredible players. A team that I've described as having the greatest sum total of any team in the world is BDS. So Shaiko is still shining in a very busy environment where everyone else is doing so, and Citizen can do all the shining for his team because no one else right now is.
I want to hold you to this for a moment. Can we pull up the predictions for just a moment? I wanted him to talk for literal minutes. I wanted you both to really talk for a bit because I wanted all that bias to kind of come out, especially when we get to see Des for G2, Fresh for G2. Fresh, I can understand, used to be there. There we go. It's updated now. Des, you're receiving some stuff from G2 at some point in time.
Blasphemy.
Understandable.
I have got no idea what you're talking about.
I saw the tweet. It's on Twitter. It's a free app.
This is slander. I am genuinely believing that G2 can do this. Hand on heart, I 100% believe G2 can go on to beat BDS.
You put your hand over here. What are you talking about?
He was on the wrong side there, Des.
It's on this side.
No, it's on this side. I saw it.
They can do it.
Do you know why I think G2 will win?
What?
Is because
Some miracle will happen.
when you backs up
Christmas miracle, woo!
when you backs up against the wall, what do? You come out swinging.
You
and
sometimes die, you might lose.
yeah, so, but I believe G2 are going to come out swinging because they just have to. That's the thing. Is their backs up against the wall. They're facing so much pressure. G2 as an org are facing not going to SI for the first time in 4 years? If you include the roster even longer, you know, the legacy roster.
Unless there's a pity invite.
We don't talk about that. So they've got to come out swinging. There's got to be a reaction because that open qualifier loss for me really signalled there are issues, and G2 need to prove it, like I said, to themselves that, you know, they need to.
That's when you realized there were issues.
No, it took him this long.
I think there was issues.
He was on the deep hopium the entirety of this year.
I'm still on it,
G2 aren't bad.
I'm
G2
still
aren't
on
bad.
it.
Are you still on it?
I predicted them to win.
He's got a whole gas cylinder back there for him to just breathe on and live on, it feels like, at this point.
It's a whole tanker sitting outside between the both of you.
In all seriousness, right, I do think BDS are going to win this. I did the prediction for the meme a little bit. BDS, as strong as they've been throughout the year, again, not quite hitting the highs to win anything, but against this G2 team today, who are clearly low on motivation, are clearly nowhere near where they used to be back towards stage 2 when they finished second.
Yeah.
They don't take this series today. No way.
So what of our maps in this? Again, a best of 3 series in this case, so things will be a bit different than what you're used to here, because these are our finals. Oregon is first, Bank is second, Clubhouse is the G2 picked Bank.
Yeah.
Look, I'm the host, I know nothing. Fresh, what's going on here?
We talked about map pool with Joystick, actually, and about how they've been away and worked on map pool. I wonder if G2 have done the same, because through stage 3, G2 had 3 good maps. It was Coastline, it was Clubhouse, it was Chalet. You see there, they had the choice to choose Coastline or Clubhouse, and they went with Bank, which is by, you know, BDS, it's one of their favourite maps. So I'm hoping G2 have a good plan, a good curveball, and have worked on that map, because if not, we could be seeing quite a quick 2-0. Oregon's not a favourite map for G2.
No, and it's also not really a massive one for BDS when you look at the history of it. They banned it away more than it's been banned against them. They've played it twice, one win, one loss. They beat Heroic there, lost to Vitality there. It is in their wheelhouse because all the way back to the first stage of EUL last year, they were playing it quite a lot. And I always touch on the game where Rogue hard countered them, the first team to hand them their defeat in EUL with a brilliant set of counterplay. For BDS, this is a map they can play. It's definitely not been their most favourite recently. So to me, this is I don't want to say it's going to come down to this here, but they definitely don't want to show their stronger maps.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
feel,
a one
ahead
eye
of SI.
on SI
Exactly.
map, because it's in their locker, right? BDS have a 7-map pool because they, we talk about them being the best team inside of Europe. They can play every map. They can play every map comfortably. Pull out one of your weaker maps for this because you're against the G2 that's kind of down in the dumps. One eye on SI. It's a potential banana skin for them. It's potentially a little bit too confident, but they've got the quality to see themselves through.
What is that?
What is a banana skin for?
Well, you slip up on it.
Oh, right, okay, I see.
Come on.
Look,
Look,
Come on.
look.
for the drums.
I'm English as well, and I ain't with
I'm
this.
not English. I am very
Don't put me with him.
Okay. Whatever.
Banana skin.
Are you from the north? of
Ace would have
England?
got it. Can we get Ace it?
You can have him like next weekend, maybe.
Which is probably
kicking
going to
back
be the
now.
case anyways, but he's sitting back resting for this. Well, as the lobby is being readied up, because as always, the players have to kind of Get ready.
Let's be fair to them, right? And you're always sympathetic towards this. I know you are. They had like warm-up scrims booked in so they can warm up ready for the match. And to be told, oh yeah, the other game has finished an hour and a half early. Be ready in 30 minutes is like, right. So warm-up's being cut short. Now we've got to get ourselves ready. Like, I sympathise a little bit with them needing a bit more time to get prepped.
All right. Well, we talk about map pool, BDS 7 map pool.
Yep.
Bank being played in this case, picked up by G2. What's G2 chances on this map pool wise? Because we're going Oregon Bank Club, so in general and then specific to Oregon.
If it gets to club, I think G2 have a chance because club's a G2 map kind of through and through. I really hope they've gone away and wiped on Bank, either to pull it into their map pool or they've got some very good, elaborate counter strategy for BDS's setup on Bank.
What he said. Hey, look,
Fantastic.
he's the map expert. That's all I'm going to
Yeah.
say.
Did you do any map predictions?
I did. I got 2 out of 3.
What was
2 out of
the
3?
I got Bank and club. I didn't. Yeah.
I swear
Although
this is
I
a
thought it would be
recurring thing.
BDS choosing Bank, to be honest. I didn't see G2 pulling Bank out of their field, to be honest. But yeah, it's very hard to predict maps in best of threes and the behaviours of 2 teams, right?
So, Oregon. That is map 1 in this case between
Yes.
G2 and BDS. What do we expect operator ban-wise? Is there something that G2 can pull out to cripple their opponents? Because Bank might be a tough one. Maybe Oregon is their best shot.
You feel like you got something to say?
I'd
there.
like
Go
to-
on.
Yeah,
Go on.
he's got it. Go.
He's dying. Go on.
I'd like to see a book ban. I know it's a little bit out there,
Really?
but especially for the
You're on about the
kids-
West Side push.
The
right?
West Side push
Yeah.
for the kids' dorms side. BDS like to push that. And if G2 are starting on the defence, which I assume they are because it's BDS's map pick, guarantee yourself 2 defensive rounds on the kids' dorms on the primary sites because BDS, they like to do that west clear through small tower, dining, kitchen, play the book vertically, and then play for the big window plant that we alluded to in the pre-show. If you can scupper that attack, force them into a different type of attack, and then win the defence, it's probably a nice kind of footing to start the game off and build off the back of that.
Yeah. Take a look back at what, for example, in the game against Vitality was banned away. BDS banned away Thatcher and Kaid, 2 pretty safe bans. And knowing that on the other side, Kayak is a Kaid player, it makes sense to me that that would be the ban away here coming in for BDS. Knowing that on the downstairs site, if G2 are on defense, you're going to see Kayak bringing on the Kaid. It's just a kind of done deal at this point. Maybe even on the top floor as well. So Thatcher, Kaid for BDS makes perfect sense. G2 can now look to play around that a little bit if they know those are going to be the bans. They get full control of what their bans are going to be and ultimately how this game starts to play out.
Well, we talk about the big players that need to show up or usually do show up, but what about Hungry and Yunka for G2 coming
Do we
into
need to go into that?
Yes, it's kind of what we
been-
do here.
it's
We got time.
been-
Shaiko is nowhere to be found right now, so we're
isn't
kind
he?
of waiting.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Look, the king takes time. He's got to roll out the red carpet to sit down at his desk. You know, fanfares all round. It's all all that jazz. Looking at those 2 players, right? Hungry, I've always described as like, it's like playing a game where you have a gun, and he's the augment that you bolt on the gun, and it becomes a sniper, a shotgun, an LMG. Take your pick, and can become anything.
Yep.
Because he's been playing these operators that augment a team's playstyle and ultimately what their execute looks like, right? He's played a lot of Monty. He's played some Ying. We've seen Lion, Capital, you name it. He has played very varied operators throughout the entirety of the year. I think he will still fall into that role, and I somewhat have some sympathy for him. Yes, his performance has not been fantastic. By the same token, he's playing almost what the filler role that Panix had to do when he played on Na'Vi as well.
Yeah.
He's being put into these different spots to fill a need for the team, and that kind of gives a lot of instability to him. He's having to do different things every single round with different play styles, different times of impact, things like that. On the other side of things, Yonka, I'll leave you for that tough one.
I'm just going to talk about Hungary. I was going to add on to the Hungary point.
We're both trying to dance around
No,
this.
I will go on to Yonka. I will go
All
on to
right,
Yonka.
all right.
I'm going to force your hand
the
on
Hungary
this.
point
No,
is
no
that
escape.
I've described Hungary before as an exotic player. He fits in well into a team where the other 4 players are operating as a unit. Well, they're getting their kills, they're getting refrags, and they allow him the freedom to play his Ying, to play his Capitao, to play these operators that we don't normally see in the kind of meta operator pool. When G2 are suffering issues such as team play, such as communication, such as decision making, that's where Hungary isn't shining off the back of that, because that's not his game style. He needs the rest of the team to be doing that well. For Yonka, he's made a massive step up from, he was in M&M, right? And he was playing in Challenger League, and he's made a step up into G2 with the expectations that come with G2. The pressure's maybe got to him a little bit, but he'll see out 2021. Hopefully come back into 2022 season a better player with that experience under his belt.
Hang on. It's the host's finger here, right? That means we have to shut up and let Milos say something. Go on.
Oh yeah, at majors it becomes way worse than just here. You can ask between Keeney, Jack, and Jess how it usually gets at majors. Like
all the hand signals under the desk.
yes, our lobby is ready.
Okay.
BDS were delayed, but then G2 were, and then they all got into the game. So we're ready to go. Jack, Des, thank you very much. Map 1, Oregon, who takes it?
BDS.
All right, there you go. Seems like they're heading for a 2-0 despite voting for G2. I mean, who would have thought? Shows for nothing. Well, friends, let's head into game. We got map 1, Oregon. BDS is picking. They start off on attack. We got Happen to take us through it. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Milos. And if we follow the art style, it's going to be a cage match between someone who brought a hatchet or an axe and someone with a mechanical arm.
I think that's cheating. I don't think you're allowed.
I'm
not
sure.
fully up to date on the rules of
neither
the
am I.
Octagon. I don't think you're allowed an axe.
I don't think so either.
No.
But, we'll see which one has the advantage. The mechanical arm or the axe that is being brought by BDS. Now, the social vote has voted, and they think that 73% of them think that the axe will be in favor. I think I'll join that. Let's head into Oregon now to see how this first map will play out.
Are you okay?
I'm trying to find the sound.
No, I just noticed. I was going to keep casting, and then you were starting to throw
It's
some
been a
gestures.
while since
it's
I
been
was-
a while.
it's like, which one
We're
do I
back in the
need?
studio. I love it. It's nice to be here.
Yeah.
It was obviously the home of the wonderful CL talent.
For a while, but we kicked him out again.
We kicked them out again. It would be nice to have said hi. And then we got here and found out that they'd broken a drone.
Yeah, they have. I've started into investigation.
An
but
investigation has been
it
launched.
wasn't the Dutch.
But you're a bit biased.
Now it's confirmed it wasn't the
Okay,
Dutch.
but I've also had confirmation that it was the Dutch.
Well, I've had confirmation.
Ladies and
from the person who gave
gentlemen, and all my
confirmation.
non-binary
that the confirmation was no
outside
actual
there.
confirmation.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this story can go around. We need to just get to the bottom of this. There's a lot of amazing props in this set. You guys have obviously seen it over the past year. We'll talk about these bands in a second. A lot of amazing props in this set. We let, the wonderful CL team, Anne, Antox, Ian, Demo, and Ollie
Yes.
came out here, did fantastic shows, amazing shows for the build-up to all of this tournament. And and then we have this cute little drone guy. They did some content with the
got a
drone.
flat tire now.
And then the drone is now slightly damaged, missing a bit of flight. It could be fixed. It's not entire, but
Of course. It was still in one piece though at the end of the show. So
that's what they say. But how can we trust them?
because I checked the vault.
Okay, well I guess Justin. Okay,
Let's get
Oregon.
into the game.
Look at these player cards. Look
Yeah,
at these
those are
new
new.
player cards. There's a cool sledge one. That's quite high in the battle passes.
I have it already. It's before 65.
Yeah, you're at level 65 already.
Yes.
You're really making sure you get to the end. New launch, new battle pass, new cards,
Yep,
new cool
yep.
stuff. You can see the people that have gone through the decoration. Virtua and Jonga, they don't.
No, they don't.
They don't mind.
It's like, let's just run the default. It's been good enough for a while now.
Oregon. We find ourselves starting here, and obviously the conversation now, as I said, we'll talk about operator bans now, because it's better to get it all when it's together. The Goyo is probably the most poignant removal here.
Yep.
Obviously, the limitation of hard destruction, it being a thermite raises a couple of potential questions, but they're very quickly answered, because usually, Ace is a lot more of a reliance for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
There's not really too much hatch play. There's only really one E-box often here, but sometimes teams extend up there nowadays anyway. You're looking at the end of Attic. You're looking at walking if you're taking onto dorms. The Thermite makes that a quicker and easier job, but I don't know, pulling it out, I guess it's sort of a particular removal that they think. And then the Falcon, the Thatcher, that's just standard play. So the Goyo, a bit of focus there.
Yeah, of course, shields are always quite useful, especially down below. You gotta think of elbow there, where a shield is on the corner, and potentially shield right next to the door as well. You're gonna have to bring operators that bring them as their secondary gadget, which means that you might miss out on other stuff. A Citizen opens up the score. It's Bride taken care of. It's one of the two hard breachers that BDS no longer have access to now, which means that the hatches will be tougher to open up. Of course, still, the Maverick, the man that doesn't care about electrification at all, just uses that blowtorch to open it up. Just takes a little bit longer, though.
Obviously means that you've got to try and get the recollection on that diffuser as well. Bride, the first to find the fight, and it was a bit of a surprise on a double door, sprayed through, but here, they're going to see if they can instantly try and build behind it. Shaiko's going to put some pressure onto Freezer. There is some of that coming back. They're hoping they go for the hop-up onto the locker so they can just get the catch on the cheeky angle. Maybe they don't think that Shaiko is as deep as he is, but they're not going to take that risk. They're more than happy to try and take the fight around the corner. As you look on the far side, the tower stairs, the big rotation's coming through. As I said, E-Box is often the sort of lead in here, and they've sort of picked up on that idea. They're a man down, so why not try and take some ground without having to force yourself to the fight, which is what this pillar take is. You can sort of force people out of positions by opening up this hatch and then pulling them away from Harry Potter, pulling them away from that pillar position, which they often like to play quite aggressively.
Something, though, is with the lack of a Hibana now, that double wall next to E-Box will stay closed, and with that, Hungry, his position is quite safe now. Only really has to worry about the member onto the back stairs here. Shaiko wants to open up onto the freezer, wants to get that very first kill. It's unfortunately for him, though, not granted it yet. He just continues to hold the jump up there, wants to make sure that he's ready once it comes in, but a yellow ping here might guide the Lambs to a kill with a grenade.
That's it. They're just trying to see if they can get the swing in the side of somebody, and they're not quite able to find the connection that they're after. The sprays come through and the bodies go down. Hungry suffers, but Rafal is also down in the meantime, and look where that diffuser is. Oh, that's kind of firmly in the G2 territory. Now then, as they're starting to see if they can just spray anything either side of the pillar, it's becoming a little bit of a congestion here. 40 seconds, they have some time, but they have barely any health in the pockets around Shiro, and it's down to Shaiko, who obviously hasn't really been able to impact this round pretty much at all. As of yet, he was that anchor and that anvil on the far side of Freezer for the longest time, but nothing ever really came towards him. So he's now in a situation where he's just got to try and drop it like it is, and it's hot, but it's dropped. And it's G2 that are able to pull the first round.
A kill came from it, but not much more than that. It's G2, as you just mentioned, the first one on the board. And we saw how Oregon went in the game we had beforehand. It was a 5-1 scoreline. So let's see if we are heading towards a similar trend where the defenders have that favor, or if we're going for a completely different one, completely different narrative, where BDS is going to be the one running away with a 1 first half. Now, we are heading up to the kids in the dorms. That side is normally considered the primary site. Many teams go there first instead of the basement. So maybe, just maybe, they caught BDS a little bit off guard there. Of course, drones should have quickly notified the rest of the team of that. So the spawn peak, absolutely no excuse for that. Gotta make sure that that doesn't happen again, especially not Bride, a member who has so much clutch potential on the side of BDS, but is also running a very important heart breacher.
So, G2, you're after a little bit of a start here, and okay, it's the first round of a best-of-3 in an EUL Finals, but the hopes weren't high for G2, based on obviously recent performances, recent results. They were so close to not being here. It was a head-to-head that decided that they got the 4th spot. If they hadn't have had such a good second stage in that honeymoon period with the new players, they wouldn't be here. And that's the difference. Whereas with BDS's performance, you could have taken G2's best stage and added the same amount of points again to G2's total tally and given them a 4th point score, and they still wouldn't have matched BDS's for the whole year. That's how good BDS have been this year, and that sort of level is one that they've always sort of been steady on, whether it's in the league play online or at majors, which they've been a frequent sort of face at. They've generally been pretty steady.
That's it, right? BDS does qualify for the majors, did qualify for the 6th Invitational. Again, it's just that we're waiting for that result to come out on the actual major or SI stage. Those seem to be lacking a little bit behind. And of course, last year, they played the European League Grand Finals against G2 as well. They lost that one out due to a toe shot, really, that went on in map 1, I believe it was, Steenpark, which proved to be very crucial at the end of the run. So you never know. You got to make sure that you put this first map on the board as quickly as possible. And due to leading now and a lot of time being wasted, BDS, they need to start opening up soon, but they spot that rotation into the games room, and that might prove a little bit difficult, as there is always that opportunity to go for that swing for G2 there.
That's it. Shaiko once again finds himself trying to bait into an angle, but this time he's being a little bit more of a pressure point for them. Virtue's ready and waiting underneath split. They can potentially go for a bit of a swing or a roam, but there's still a lot of time for them to burn through. May as well hold off for another 40 seconds, apart from unless everything starts to fall apart inside the site itself as the slow creep comes through. They're trying to get the control of the bedroom extension here, but Shaiko, again, as you're seeing him now, it's very different to how he was holding onto the freezer angle. He was sort of waiting for the pressure, waiting for the bait here, and well, there's no more waiting going to come through. Virtue, he's crept his way down via Zulu. He's going to see if he can take the fight, but it is being watched. Hungry was there as a bit of support, but as Bride takes the first fight, that's an important pickup from Alems. Hungry bites back, though. Now he's going to swing up the bottom. Didn't expect it so quick, and as Bride sticks the plant, it's just Citizen left. He is the back corner of the site itself, but there's nowhere he can really go. They seem to have an idea on his number. He's going to find the first and swings round, goes for the second and finds it too. And now in a 2 versus nobody. Bride gets some revenge there just as Citizen started to do Citizen things.
Yeah, he was about to pull off that magic there, but still 2 members left and he had no clue where they were. Of course, had a hunch that one could be inside of games right after the plant went down, but was maybe afraid someone could be in the kid's bedroom as well. 1-1, BDS tie up the score for now. That is more like we used to be seeing from them. As we're heading towards a tertiary site here, G2 is deciding to not rerun that top floor. It fell out of their hands quite quickly. As soon as BDS started to pull that trigger, there was nothing they could do to hold it back. Also, of course, some Virtue trying to go for a bit of a flank below. Didn't really work out in the end. Hungry was there for support. They got a trade kill, but in the end, they left with a -1. And now the big question is, where is this hold going to be taking place? Are we going to see the Frost, for example, really play up in that top floor, in the small tower? Or are they going to be trying to neglect that? There is, of course, no Thermite. Thermite, often an operator used to, well, place it on the ground, which would open up the reinforcements as well that Yonka is currently making some lines of sight in, together with just 1 reinforcement. So there is no real need for that. So it really depends on what BDS want to attack from.
So, Citizen, triple in the first round and a double in the second. He seems to be at the pace he wants to hit, but the worry is never really him. As they talked about it on the desk, sometimes the lack of attention paid by some of the rest of the G2 players when we know what they're capable of is that down to the moment. During that second split where they were at their strongest, a lot of them had these pop-off moments. Obviously, Virtue is one of those players who can have huge games. Kayak, the consistency of him being that lock-off at the end of the round. And even recent games, we've seen Hungary and Kayak especially have these big moments. And this is, I guess, the time for them to show it, because that honeymoon period can only really last for a certain amount of time. There's a bit of a gambit and a gamble, but no one was close to suffer the consequences.
Suppressor on the AUG is what he's currently running. Alems, in the meantime, they're already inside of Attic. Spots out of Frostmad as he jumps down. Managed to find out that the Frost is holding a close angle as well before the drones even came in. Will not be caught as a result of that. Opens up the hatch and continues to pressure down into that top floor. All 5 members are around that side. 3 upstairs, 2 below. BDS, they surely want to try and take control of this area. But it wouldn't be surprising to me if they just go for meeting and open up onto the B-bomb side as well, and just maybe go for a plant right behind the paper stack.
Well, he's been able to get over the hot hop there, but they've had to pull back how aggressively they're holding it. There goes the drop down through the kid's hatch, and now they're going to see if they can try and pinch the players. They just clear that space above and find the pocket here towards that default plant spot behind the stacked boxes. Kayak swings wide just to see if he can put some pressure in. He's not entirely under an intense bout as of yet, but he's going to open himself up, potentially a rotation underneath, and maybe dig in either of the two other staircases. They both lead to what can be a bit of a bite on the backside of BDS at this moment in time, and there he goes towards the tower side, and he might strike through. In the meantime, Virtue is the first to suffer.
Junker in a key position here to stop this plan from Brede from happening. They need to get security control, and they need to get some control in the kitchen itself as well, as Virtue's playing around there, but he gets caught off. Lems picks him up through the hatch. Kayak, however, is in a key position here, has the opportunity to rotate in and go for a big flank as Citizen strikes back.
Now, Kayak goes for a slow creep up the stairs, but with 50 seconds, he's got to time this perfectly. Rafal is the one that might potentially get punished. No. Drops away. Thought he might have been caught on a drone there, and you can see Rafal has all the attention and focus paid through. He was revealed, and luckily for him, that intel's played towards him. So instead, he goes for the main entrance staircase itself. Citizen's still on a mission to try and retake, and Renshiro is going to make that a bit tougher. But there's Kayak. Strikes through one, and there's Citizen. Strikes for a second. Another combo of kills, and Brede puts the balance back into even halves. 2 versus 2. And Hungry is the last one inside the site itself. He knows where the breach is, but with 15 seconds, they've got to make a very quick decision here, and it's going to be for the split push. Citizen has the call on the procs. They're actually going to go wider and wider, but there it is. Hungry strikes from the important side. Brede knows that he had to at least try and take the vertical side here. Can't quite find anybody in time. And G2 find a second round.
Timer runs out indeed, and G2 get their second, and that means now as well the bottom floor will unlock. And surely they will head back down there, given the fact that they already had some success there. Given the fact, of course, that they did have a spawn peak kill. Brede always softens up the attack just ever so slightly and allow them to really carry on through that round. But they do head back to laundry supply. Wondering if the frost will stick. No, will not.
There's your answer.
I was going to say, like, the frost does normally give away it is not bottom floor. There is not many positions. I mean, there's no windows that you jump in from to hit the side. There's no staircases that go up, which are often a way to block lines of sight. So the frost usually not as useful on a basement site compared to on a site which has many windows in it.
BDS off to a rocky start the first time they approached here. Obviously lost the man who usually you want coming into the flood at the end of your attack. Brede dropped from the door, and then they didn't seem to quite get a handle on how they wanted to approach. It was that running start that G2 hit that made them stumble. But have BDS now had a little bit of time to wake up? Is this going to be something where we see potentially a pick up sticks and a push from the opposite side instead, with a little bit more focus on what they can do against G2's defense? Or are they going to say, well, no, it's a take two. We're going to go with the same approach and see if we can lock it down here.
It's always that possibility. I mean, usually we do see a blue take. That comes down from the big tower together with the E-box and then barrels maybe as well. But ever so often we do see a complete laundry and freezer take to come through. So Hungry wanted to go for a bit of an aggressive peek there, but wasn't quite able to find a head. Nadra gets tossed out, at least gives away his position there. So BDS well aware that someone is active in T2.
That's it. It gives the reveal to Hungry that he was on drone, because those bullets came through with the idea of trying to hit somebody, and they weren't followed up by a body slipping past either. They knew that was a pressure, and just from putting that pressure onto that single window, they've been able to pull them out. Shaiko taken! As he said, the worst possible timing there. They thought they entirely had the drop, but Yonka swung up and suffered a huge amount of damage from it. But just having that extra split second is the one that they allowed him to get the lock in. Rafal is going to see if they can try and chase them downstairs, but once again, BDS are trying to rebuild from losing that early fight, and G2 aren't overextending. They've said, we've got it, we've got this advantage. We know that they still have to push the site, which is a heavy lock in sight down here. Pull back.
So far, Shaiko also not really able to get into the game too much here, while Citizen does, of course, put them head-to-head against one another, where Des called Citizen the shadow of Shaiko. Currently, seems to be the other way around for this matchup. Question, of course, will remain if it stays the same. Electrified Hatch will force BDS to rotate around. There's nothing he can do with the X-Kairos there. Needs Rafal to open up that hatch, and there's still plenty of fuel left, of course. First is focused on that freezer hatch, as a small portion of that push definitely will go that way.
Wow, just over a minute, and we're starting to see a slightly different take here. Obviously, they're opening up their hatches, and they still have Renshira, and potentially Rafal's going to stick around here, but this time there is the crossfire and the presence onto Freezer. Maybe they're trying to pull some bodies away from Pillar, make a little bit more of that approach something approachable, but either way, they're still just trying to find that first kill, and they are not being offered anything by G2, who are playing massively passively for the comparison of how they are at the start of their hold here. 4 players started this round off-site, and as soon as they got that first kill, all of them fell back, and that puts BDS in this really tricky situation. But as I said, LM's making the creep through on the opposite side. They're going to not quite get that behind the chassis, but no one's there either way, so it gives the game away that someone's making an approach. Sprays through, doesn't quite get the connection. 20 seconds now, and they got to see if they can try and take the actual push. The first goes their way, the second goes back against them, and now they're going to see if they can lock it out. Citizen, once again, threads more than a kill around. There's one more. And if you said Shaiko hasn't quite shown up, Citizen definitely has. 8 seconds left. Renshiro at least gets some revenge. Can't quite get the connection with the next. All they got to do is sit and wait. But they don't even give them that. G2, third round.
Had the big LMG there, supposedly not having to reload, but the angles were set up by G2. And in the middle of that round, you might have heard a new sound. If you do not play Siege too much yourself, you just watch, you heard something that sounded like an EMP. And that's, of course, the new bulletproofs. The new bulletproofs that have that little EMP. And what happened is Hungry spotted that drone on the back stairs. Wasn't able to quite get that kill in. They used the bulletproof to get an EMP dart in there to make sure that that drone would temporarily be disabled and couldn't move through. At least that's what I assume was the plan right behind that. Of course, limiting the information as a result as well, allowing Hungry to continue playing where he did. And right now, G2 up 1-3. Citizen really coming to the party here right now. 10 kills after 4 rounds. That is definitely helping them across the line so far.
I mean, it's pretty good.
It's just pretty good.
2 triple kills, 2 double kills over 4 rounds. He has come here to try and put down the mark. And again, that's always that point is... He is a brilliant player, and he's fantastic in these situations where he can sort of put things together, but this is where G2 have generally found a little bit more success. Ironically, their only 2 full-time or in standard play wins that they got over the recent split was against the 2 other French teams in the league. Yes, they beat Vitality and beat Heroic, and they were able to take themselves the full points from those games. They didn't. The BDS dispatched them 7-1.
Yeah,
on coast, but you never know.
So the thing here is as well, it's like there's not as much on the line for G2 during this game over the longer run. If they win this, you know, the next tournament they have, unless if they manage to qualify through the open qualifiers, will be the European League Stage 1 that starts somewhere after SI next year.
Yeah.
So it's a long time.
A while away.
BDS still have SI coming up, and, you know, we all put the pressure on them, saying that we want to get that result from them so badly, as Shaiko repels into a Frostmat on the other side of the armory, and I believe Yonka has heard that, wants to go on a bit of a salvation here, just to make sure they get that kill right before Rafal's able to repel up in time, and that means that yet again the opener goes to G2.
And that's very well played there from Yonka. Obviously knew where he had put that trap down and made sure that he was able to punish them, because you can see, as you said, the BDS team, the French players, were starting to swarm around that area. They weren't quite in a position to pick it up. Armory was a little bit free last time. This time, no, there was a big cost that Shaiko had to pay for the quick pressure he was able to apply last time round. G2 had a response, and they made sure that they were in a great position to push that further and further. BDS swings in now. He's going to see if he can put the pressure onto that shield player itself, but obviously we did see a shotgun not too far away in walk-in itself. So there's a lot of a cross angle. There's a lot of fear and a lot of danger that might start to come towards them sooner rather than later.
All being made to get a grenade through from Rafal. Will do so now as well to put up some pressure into the trophy side. Of course, no player there currently, but I believe there was some pieces of utility placed. At least that will be cleared out now. BDS continues to open up. You saw there was an aggressive hold that they used on the side of G2, but it has been closed off again. Might mess actually with the X-Cars right now, putting up a little bit of a reinforced bar in between as Hungry still below. Could be coming in for a very big flank here if Alems doesn't hold it off properly.
Ranchero waits for the swing, but Kayak finds it anyway. He had a bit of an idea that someone might come and find the fight, but I guess the little delay it took Kayak to get there was all he needed. There's the second pickup, potentially. They would have heard each other's audio, maybe heard the drone pop up, but cannot quite get it. Brede gets the swing back around, still massively injured and still a lot to do, and now even less to do it with as Citizen finds yet another round, yet another kill. There's a lockdown, yet another double kill for Citizen now, 12-2. And it's up to Brede with not much health, but he doesn't quite find it as Hungry locks it off. G2, 4-1 so far.
Yeah, they're off to a flying start here on Oregon. Of course, slightly defense-sided, we would usually say. A 4-2, maybe a 3-3 would be a pretty decent scoreline. However, we saw it earlier today as well with Empire. Taken up against Na'Vi, 5-1 is how they took that lead. Looks like G2 has the opportunity to do that themselves now. From there on, it's a very long way back for BDS. Of course, G2 are well aware of the comebacks that have happened to them over the last 3 stages. Often when they were in a 5-1 position as well, and you would be like, there's no way they throw that away. But they often did after that. Once they went over to the attack, they seemed to struggle there. Of course, they had some time to work on these issues. Weren't at the major. That is, to some, a gift. To others, a curse. Depends on how your form was in the previous stage. I think G2 have been able to benefit of that quite a bit. And, you know, their SI qualifier form might not be telling the story completely. Because now they're playing teams that they know. Teams that they have played against many times before and prepared against. Whereas in the open qualifier, you play how many teams? There can literally be hundreds of them. And some of them, there's no VODs on.
I think that's it, is we didn't see G2 pick up Oregon throughout their time playing in AUL Split 3 over the past 3 months, but we did see it as their loss in open quals. And that was where things sort of fell apart for them. And sure, the team was a little bit of an unknown entity. The team was a little bit of, you know, unknown from Valor.
Yeah.
But they're known in their scene. There are apparently a lot of sort of younger gunners that have recently turned old enough to compete. And they've been together a while, and they showed it. They took down a T1 team. Whoever does that, regardless of how much of an underdog story is, they've got to have some caliber of quality there.
For sure.
But it was on Oregon, and it was a map that, as I said, we haven't seen from them. We've seen it as a 50% win rate from BDS.
Mm-hmm.
Once at SI, they lost it. Once, not SI even. Once at Sweden, they lost it. And then once throughout EUL, they won it.
Yeah, and even if you look earlier at the year, BDS, you know, we would, like when you would say BDS, we would say Oregon right afterwards. I mean, the pillar is called Shaiko for a reason. He would pick up so many, like multiple kills from that one, just in singular rounds. Now, over the course of the stages, teams learned how to play against them. Rogue was the first team to implement that. Was able to counter them in that stage 1, bring them their first loss. And as we're just waiting for the last to get back in, it is G2 that is currently leading 4-1. Have the opportunity to make this a 5-1 as well. Against a team that, according to many, is the best in Europe. The best Europe has to offer, really. But they haven't really been in their greatest form, if you look at the Major, for example. The game against FaZe is not something they are probably very proud of.
It's always the hard conversation with BDS because they've been so consistent and they've been consistently good, which is a rare thing. It's a rare thing in EU Siege. It's a rare thing in any Siege. And we can always talk about how Latin America has had a fantastic year. They have. There's no two ways about that. Statistically, they've been every single finalist apart from one that was Empire. They've had a good year. But it's generally been a different team that's been showing up too much. There's only really been, obviously, the double showing of NIP that showed up in a couple of finals, but still, it's a new LAN team. It's this melting pot of talent from multiple different sides. BDS were that bar the EU teams had to beat. They were that sort of barometer for how well we're doing. And because of that, it becomes this question in international play of, do they suffer because they haven't, you know, it's not that they're not being stressed or pressured, but they're used to being consistently this top dog team. They were undefeated in the third split.
Yeah, and I think that if you are a team in a different region and you have to prepare for 16 other or 15 other teams to some extent, you're going to prioritize some more than others.
Yeah.
Of course, first your own group because you need to make it through. But a team like BDS, you know they're going to make it out of groups at some point because they always do. Everybody knows how to play at some point. It's like Empire, right? They, not the same way, but I mean, like everybody knew how to play against Empire. I think that we might also get a bit of the same with BDS. We don't call it the Shaiko show anymore, for example, but he's still quite important to the lineup. He needs to make these impactful kills, but as you see right now, he's being shut down every single round before he can even make that impact.
It's this strange conversation with Empire as well, specifically because Empire were a team where when they were at their top before and then they sort of had the dip and recently sort of had a resurgence, everyone said they generally knew how Empire would play. Empire didn't hide how they took a map. And then they would sort of say, just try and beat us. And they were really hard to beat.
Yeah.
Regardless of if you had every single card and every single call, Empire would still just push past you. BDS have, if there is a criticism that is thrown their way that we see sort of batted around, is they do repeat themselves a bit. They do have a bit of repetition in terms of their holds and how they like to play and what they like to do. And sometimes, like a day like today, it doesn't quite connect. They don't quite have that answer or that response to this is how we've been able to overcome that hurdle. The same way that Empire would sort of just push past and say,
yeah,
this is our hand. BDS don't quite have that solidity.
No, and it's difficult with BDS because when we went into stage 2, we saw some clear mistakes, things that they needed to improve on. And don't get me wrong, their Mexico major run was fantastic, but if they would have won it against Empire, they might have won the entire thing, right? They came into stage 3, new support stuff added on BIOS, and fresh set as well. The mistakes that they had, the flaws that they shown, have been worked out of the majority part. The majority part of the flaws have been worked out. But for some reason, they just, when they get on that international stage, it doesn't click as it clicks during the European League season when we are playing those best of ones, of course. And that is what we're trying to get our head around here. Now we are playing the European League finals now. Let's put the stakes on the board again. BDS does have the 6th Invitational to come. G2 does not right now. So that means that G2 have a lot more freedom in play, whereas BDS, they might need to restrict themselves a little bit considering they are seen as the best the region has to offer.
But there is obviously a qualifier in a couple of days.
That is true.
Which we assume G2 are going to be taking part in. Obviously, this event has sort of come in the middle, and some of the other teams, they were the only one that was sort of playing in it, the only one that needed that SI qualifications out of all of the teams that are playing in these finals. So it was a bit of a focus for them. And obviously, they fell a bit short. Whether they expected that, this is always that sort of conversation to have, is we won't really know the conversations that they've had inside of their comms, unfortunately, without being invited into their comms. Whether the second one is going to be a bit more of a focus and whether BDS game here it's the same map that we saw from the weekend and they are so far playing it much better. But, you know, it's just this sort of tricky situation because at the same time, obviously, we'll be back into the game after this tech push sooner than later. We've seen them on their defense so far. We've seen them on their defense on it's their better side. And Citizen has been electric.
I was going to say, but Citizen does have like 13 kills right now.
Yeah, he's doing well.
And like the rest of the team is like 5 together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what is Citizen, if you take Citizen out of that equation, right? Is GT still beating Empire as, well, comfortably right now? They haven't beaten them yet, as they are currently. Because Citizen has been that star player in not just the European League, but especially for G2. He's been able to single-handedly turn games around into wins eventually, which they, of course, needed to get here in the end. So, as you go down just a little bit with the chair.
I didn't know they were coming back, and I was like playing with the chair. Or I wasn't playing with the chair. I was trying to get it comfortable. We don't usually come back to the cameras for this. So
no, because it's probably going to be a longer pause. It was a PC crash. Maybe, yeah, Lem's PC crashed.
Oh.
So, it's, who knows what's going on with the the circuits there.
Well, hopefully we'll be back in the game sooner rather than
Hopefully.
later. Obviously, we saved a little bit of time in the game that happened earlier on. If you missed it, obviously the first game has already been played between Na'Vi and Empire.
Yeah.
If you don't want spoilers, cover your ears. 3, 2, 1. Na'Vi didn't do too great. Empire 2-0'd. They took both maps. I can't remember the score on the first, but the second was 7-3.
It was 7-3 and 7-1, so they
7-3
got
and
just
7-1.
as many rounds as G2 already has right now.
So, improvement has been made. Hey!
We're back in the game.
We're back in the game. 4-1. Thank you for bearing with us.
I know it's difficult sometimes.
I know it's
But we're heading towards the kitchen dining yet again. And the thing about these rehosts is, for those of you that are new to Siege, you need to run the same sites, the same operators, and the same equipment, I believe. So no changing of the secondary gadgets. You are, of course, allowed to place them in different positions because, well, some might have already been drawn out, for example. You can change that now safely, but that's all there is really to it. And we have seen this site before already. The setback then is, of course, the thermite is banned, which means that the dining area is a little bit more, well, defendable, considering the double wall will not just be blown away from up top, and there's nothing you can really do about it. Considering now, you know, they just have the Maverick and the Hibana available to them.
Okay, G2, can you get yourself a 5-1 half here? Something that it's not, you know, to say that it's massively necessary. Obviously, we've had a little bit of a delay there, but I don't think BDS were going to call attack timeout. I think for them, they're still angling potentially to a 4-2. They're still happy with the game going at the pace that it is. They're not famously a tactical timeout team anyway. It's...
No, it's definitely not. And we've also seen that sometimes they didn't even use the coach, as Jonka, well, has picked up a Lems. That is going to be the entry yet once again for G2, who are really on that roll right now. And Hungry playing in that small tower is going to be the factor why BDS decides to rotate around. You see Rafal, you see Shaiko, they're both going for the bedroom site now. Drones need to come in though. They need to make sure that everything is safe before they start entering yet again, because, well, the missed drone, for example, has already caused Shaiko to die once due to a frost mat. That quickly got confirmed afterwards. That is something they need to prevent from happening, as Renshiro now drops into that frost mat. Surely Hungry has heard that, but they need to commit another player to it if they want to confirm that kill.
I mean, it's just another horrible situation for BDS. They've swung in. They've lost themselves to a frost mat. Obviously lost the engagement there against the Lems. Rafal finds Kayak and is going to try and draw some focus away from the potential of the hop in onto the window. If they can isolate the player inside the small tower, Bride...
And Renshiro as well.
Yeah, I think they've just left him. I think they've sort of weighed up the risk because they know that a player's around there and they know that it's still a risky situation to try and go in for a standing 2 versus 1 because they still need somebody to hop in. They still need someone to be the lead on a trade. They could potentially lose another body, and well, that grenade might do a little bit of work into adding some clarity of space. Hungry is still up there. Citizen finds Shaiko. Hungry finds Renshiro, locks off that kill, and now they've answered the question of are you going to get him? No.
No, Bride, he was close, but decided to just rotate off. It was too dangerous to go for that pickup there, and if you went for the auto window, you might have gotten into a frostmat yourself as well, and that will be double trouble. Either way, it's just 2 left now. Bride picks up a great kill onto Virtue from above, and that turns it into that 2v2 in a position now where they can go for a plant, and that's exactly what they go for. 40 seconds on the board, but it soon turns into 45 in favor of the attackers, as Citizen now knows they need to start heading back towards that site, as it is only up to him and Hungry now.
Very clever for them to go for the diffuser plant and see if they can get that secured here, and it makes it a little bit tricky. Obviously, they're going for the top-down take. They're going to make sure that the verticality is clear first of all, and they might be able to find a catch on an angle. Almost a toe through a floor. Hello? Is this a repeat?
Oh,
no,
down.
But it's a hell of a bit of intel there as they swing through and get the drop via the security room. Now, Rafal all left, and all that is left with a sliver of health and barely anything else, but look at the timer on the defuse. They have to throw themselves into the room because, oh no, it's too late at this point. They're not going to get there. They were just held off. Sure, you get a double frag at the end there, but you'd already won the round just because G2 didn't throw themselves through.
I'm not quite sure what the wait was for. I mean, the hatch was opened up, I believe. They could have just dropped that and then gone for the double peek through the security. I think that would have been a safer way to go at it. And BDS, they technically, you can almost say, get that round gifted, because it looked like it was going BDS's way, and G2 is going for that timeout now, so they have identified a mistake, of course. Of course, it won't matter anymore for their attacks right now. They're heading over to the defense now. It won't matter for the defense anymore. They're heading over to the attack now. It's the other way around. And they need to make sure that they close this one out. They want to make sure that they start this one off with a map advantage.
So, I said BDS aren't massively a team that takes tech timeouts, and G2 are a team that has had to take quite a few over their recent sort of stint. 4-2 isn't the end of the world, but they know they're uphill. They know what they're up against now, and it's not just a BDS defense, which is a tricky thing to pull apart anyway, but their attack and getting a thread together and trying to find this energy. You assume, obviously, unfortunately, we don't have the Citizen Cam, that he is talking to the team and filling their ears. They're not just sat there in silence.
No. And Shas, possibly.
And Shas as well. It's a conversation that they're having. It's them bringing themselves together and sort of driving home what they're going to do. Because, to be fair, Citizen's on a burner right now. And if they can try and harness that to be the tip of a spear, to drive themselves at least to get the diffuser down and maybe play a bit of an objective game, that might allow them to find a little bit of curiosity and fight here.
It could, for sure. And as they're heading over to the attack right now, it's going to be a change of pace. They now have to approach that building. They now need to work with a 3 minutes that ran out in their disadvantage. As BDS, they get the easier game now, you could almost say. They fortify themselves in the next 45 during the preparation phase, and after that, they just need to try and waste as much time as they possibly can to force G2 into making mistakes.
BDS with the Warden pick, with the expectation of potentially some quick play and flashes here. Obviously, there's a team that famously has a great Ying player, and this is a place where Ying could have a bit of a show of force, but, you know, it's sort of an expectation as well. The pressure that could come against a Warden onto Trophy, as an example, behind a shield, could be something that you could really reinforce against, regardless of the double window pressure that might come through. It's a curiosity of where Renshiro might be able to find himself locked in, and as they've got themselves a bit of a stretch and a spread here, the alibi's down underneath. What game is Alem's playing, do you think?
Trying to catch some of these players off guard, especially if they start pushing into the small tower. To him taking out these drones, there's going to be limited information here. I believe that might have even been a spot. One of the Prismas from Citizen. Not taking any damage there on the initial swing that LMs went for. He's definitely trying to go for the duel here as Citizen wins that one out.
Well, Citizen has kept his pace up here and able to find yet another round where he's been able to get a kill. I think every single round he's been able to at least find somebody. Pops the Prisma, but no one's there to respond. Rafal, a curious fight against Kayak.
He sees it as well.
Hid behind the sandbags and just pulls away before the window gets hashed through. He went for the hop out, hyper aggression. There was no way back in. But at that point, I mean, it was a risk, sure.
It was definitely a risk there, and a Citizen now taking care of those Prismas. That will no longer haunt him. Still has grenades available. He could be tossing up from right below. RC Roteros are getting rid of the utility onto those white stairs. That allows them to push in soon as well. And if you look at BDS, 2 people inside the attic, 1 inside games. Almost the entirety of the bunks is available to go for a plant right in that corner. If G2 realize that quick enough, but it seems like a bit of pressure comes in from the attic now as well. They might be pinching him right on. Virtue, what a shot is that? Wasn't even meant for the player in Shiro, but he manages to find him nonetheless.
There it is, G2. That team talk is coming through and paid in dividends right now. They have really kept that pace and that sharpness that they're able to apply on the openings of their defense. We talked about it. They led in with a foot first. They made sure that they were almost consistently on that early aggression, on that early interaction against their opponents, and here they've sort of kept that drive, and they're keeping it. They're keeping that pressure. It's a 5 versus 2. They have a minute to work this execute together. They've been able to get the clarity onto the double window and underneath. They're putting the pressure here onto that back line of the site itself. Shaiko is just on trophy door. He's trying to find somewhere to sit and maybe lead back in, but the drone's still going, still revealing where these players are, and you assume double window. No! Dropped and responded by Shaiko. The Jaeger finds a bit of pressure, and now, well, there's the response, the revenge. Citizen, 1 player left. It's a spray through on the window. They know exactly where he is, and Citizen, 1 more for the road.
He's just cleaning up the house right here. He's cleaning up Oregon. Just swings in and gets these kills so consistently every single time. That is going to be the true bane of BDS throughout this map, at least so far. Keep in mind, it could have been the 6-1 now if they would have dropped the hatch in the previous and last defense round that G2 had. But we will be going up to the 2-5 now. This is the opportunity that G2 will need to take to get that match point and make sure that they put up the pressure to BDS for the next 4 that will be played.
Look at that brand new Melusi Elite.
I like that one as well.
It's not the skin in the game.
No, of course, because that's not allowed.
Skins are banned, but the cards,
Yes.
wowee.
Regulations say you can only use the R6 share skins or the default skins.
Yep.
Nothing else. So,
There's one right now.
There's one, yeah. That's the NAL Smokes kit. There's, of course, the prize money that... it's not
Did you
really...
say that's the
NAL Smoke kit, yeah.
That was the Corona skin.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the smoke that was walking around the bottom.
I was talking about the giant advert
no,
at the bottom of the
I was looking
screen.
at the players.
There's an Empire one
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
an Empire one. I was looking at the players. I'm like, yeah, they're using that
No,
skin.
I'm not looking
look,
that in-depth.
See? NAL
There is
Smoke
the
kit.
NAL skin.
See?
NAL, also on this weekend.
Also on this weekend,
Yeah.
indeed.
They're like-
After us, I believe.
What was the comparison? They're like, if... Because we were joking about being the Suicide Squad, they're like the Justice League.
Oh, I don't know. When was that?
Oh, very early. That was like pre-call time level clever.
Was it
which isn't
today?
very clever at all. Yes.
Oh, well, I might have missed that one then.
Yeah, because you left us locked outside.
See, I was
Milosh.
playing on my Switch.
Yeah.
But either way, it is 2:30 left on that clock. G2, they seem to be aware of a player inside of the attic, and as they open up that window, who just tries to swing through that? Shiro that almost loses his head, but comes away with not a single point of damage taken. Does find a drone, however, I believe, and takes it out. But that could have ended real badly there for BDS in the very first half a minute.
I mean, it was a decision to try and lean into a firefight. They had a little bit more of just a spray on a window. They seem to have a dedication on you. There is a little bit more of a direct spray. Lems is able to find Hungry, drops them from underneath and keeps that clarity for the first time in a while. It feels like BDS have got the upper hand early onto a round. And, you know, it's only the second attack that we've seen G2 try and put them on so far. But you compare this to how BDS opened the previous round, it was very aggressive. It was mobily aggressive as well. Alems was pushing into the approach here. This time, he's sort of let them fall into his trap, and he's been able to punish them because of it.
Still has the spot there on the player inside of the attic. More sprays are being attempted here, but shots are being fired back by Shiro, who now uses his impact to try and fall back as Alems catches a grenade, but somehow still manages to live. He's still holding out here, still trying to waste some time, but his foot is being shot off by Yonka. That turns it back into a 4-on-4, and 90 seconds or a little bit less still on the clock, so plenty of time for G2 to start working towards the actual site.
Well, now is Kayak's going to see if he can potentially go towards the hatch itself. Shaiko is still obviously in a power position and a place he plays very, very well. He started to show a little bit more of that movement, that capability on the opening defense previously, but then quickly got picked back up by a very aggressive swing. However, in that situation, it was a 5 versus 2. So they had that body advantage and they made sure they could push it. Here, when it's still a 4 versus 4, here, when there is a little bit more of a time constraint on G2, that might be something where Shaiko can start to light that fire that we know he can do, especially from a position just like this. G2 pick up sticks and head for a bit of a rotation now. They're going to instead angle and aim themselves towards a freezer on the far side with a bit of a split here onto washing. If they can get some of this ground to take, then it could be a good push. But as the camera goes for the reveal, it's still a lot of work left to do and not a huge amount of time left to do it.
Definitely not, but 3 players are located near the back stairs. There's definitely less pressure from BDS on the, well, laundry side of things, so that's what they're trying to go for now, with just 18 seconds on the clock. Grenades are being tossed out. That gives at least the call that the freezer itself is clear, but as a Prisma gets shot, they are aware of Citizen's position. They need to start pushing in now. There's a guy right behind the bomb chassis, Rafal, waiting to be flashed, and he's not going to be able to pick up the kills, but G2 are falling apart with the last second left. It is BDS that pick up the round, and they are starting to close that gap.
That was it, and the one thing I was sort of watching there was, well, the 2 things. I had one eye on the timer and one eye on the diffuser, which was Jonker, above the washing hatch, and they were waiting for something to happen from the freezer side, and potentially from the far side on the stairs, but that confrontation I don't think even hit by the time the pressure side has come through. Yeah. That's that little worry of G2. When it comes to the execute, when it comes to the push, they're still working stuff out. They're still trying to find that connection. They still needed something to happen for that diffuser to feel safe to try and make that charge, and because no one felt confident enough or no one felt safe enough, it led to that. It led to a bit of a scramble, it led to a bit of a scrap, and it led to 2 kills, 2 different places, third round for BDS. They've been able to get the difference down to 2, but that's blow for blow. Can they try and, for the first time this game, thread 2 rounds together?
Of course, G2, they lost one early. They used a lot of time trying to clear out that top floor, and eventually they did, but maybe they felt like they didn't have enough time left to really put a dent into E-Box and the Shaiko spot, also known as the pillar, which is why they called that rotate. Of course, we can only what's that word? Hypothesize?
Hypothesize.
It's a difficult word.
Make a hypothesis.
Yeah, I got that one. But
Yeah.
you know, we can only think about what the reason was for that late rotate. I think it's due to the fact that there was a lot of pressure near the back stairs. There was just, they felt there was not enough time to put a dent into them there and push through. So they wanted to go for a different take, and they might not have been ready for that, because definitely from moment one it seemed like they wanted to go for that push through that hatch in E-Box.
Well, Rafal was under a bit of a bout of pressure there quite early on, pulls himself away, and the spray starts to come through from a couple of different angles. They have some pings and some idea. To be fair, the drone game and that intel game we've seen from G2 so far has been really good. The positioning and the calls on where the BDS players are and this early lead into the defense has almost netted them both opening kills, and it netted them the first. There's even more pressure. There's the spray through. The reveal comes back on 2 different players who hit 2 different prismas, but it forces them into a slightly trickier situation and allows the door to be open for Citizen. He cruises a little bit closer to this engagement. He's going to open himself up a bit of a punch hole here. There's nobody that's swinging on him as yet, but there's a Lems to actually find Jonker on the door and the shoulder, and a Lems goes, enough from me, I'm out of here.
That's for a bit of a small rotate. Wants to go back towards green, just to make sure that they don't lose too much of the bottom floor control here. Now, a lot of the rotations are being opened up by Virtue, of course. Carries a giant sledgehammer around a caber, just to make sure that they have that freedom of movement. Saves you some time. Lots of sides are being created as well. Grenades are being tossed in. A lot of utilities being used, but not everything hits, as ADSs, of course, take care of some of those pieces as well. And that grenade doesn't roll up quite enough up these stairs, and it's not going to be able to get the Banshee or the ADS out there. So G2 still will have to worry about that. In the end, at least.
In the end. But does it even matter?
That's a big question.
Because they've tried so hard and they've got so far.
Yes.
Come on, Linkin Park. Keep up, keep up.
I just didn't want to continue it.
Okay. Well, the 2-punch barricade entrance leads to a silent route through here for Kayak. They've obviously lost one of their hard destructors now, and they've at least got some revenge. Lems goes down. A very late trade, technically. Not really a trade, technically. It's in an entirely different position in the map, but at least they found the guy who got their guy. And to be fair, it's a bit of a blow because it's still, you know, someone who went for these confrontations. It's the mute. You assume all of his gadgetry is already down. And Kayak, he almost finds the Malusi, just missed the spray, but Citizen is in a good position to pick that back up. That is that multi-pronged push that we needed from them.
Such a smart play as well. Just quickly put that one little dot in so you have the opportunity to try and go for it. As Shaiko just spots a player go past there. That is, of course, going to be that Maverick of Kayak, who now gets up onto the highway here, takes a bit of damage, but manages to stay safe for now. 15 seconds on the clock, and they need to hurry on G2's side.
Well, it's coming from every which way, and Shaiko's still going to try and lean into the pressure here, but once again, we're seeing a bit of a scramble here from G2 to actually get into the site. There's a door locked, there's Virtue picking up an important kill, but Shaiko swings round. The final 10 seconds once again bites G2.
Yeah, for sure, and where Shaiko in the early round, during the BDS attack, was not really able to pull together any kills at all. He's now starting to shine on that defense where the time starts ticking and G2 is forced to move in. That's when Shaiko is picking up all these amazing kills and chains them together to now an extra round for BDS, to now a 4-5. Just a single round deficit. And it's easily bridge that gap that they currently have. They're heading over towards the meeting in the kitchen. The Monty is coming out from Hungary. Could be interesting to see how that one will play out. Possibly to put up some pressure into green if they want to go for a tower take.
I guess the questions here with the Monty is it something that they're falling back to as a way to break through the bastion of BDS? Is it a way to give them some confidence as the lean in? Because they're droning ahead for the pressure. They're droning ahead to try and get the intel. I know I've referenced them a couple of times throughout this series so far, but there was a good point of reference with Empire was when they were at their sort of weakest for a team of exceptionally talented people. It's because they felt cautious, because they felt slow, because they were checking and rechecking everything. They weren't fully trusting themselves. They weren't fully trusting their intel, in the words of Joystick, when they were quoted on this, and then finding that fire and that flavor again is why they've been able to come to a return to force. It's a little bit of a similar story right now for G2. As I said, that early drowning, fantastic. Finding those players, finding that sort of breakdown of where everybody is, but that late push, is it because they're trying to go back to that early game that's doing them so well of we need everything written down and droned before we go for it?
I think it might be the opposite. I think they drone quite a bit, right, during their pre-game. They use quite a bit of time to get rid of the players, but at that point, they have 1:30 left to go for their setup. Now, usually you would say that is enough, but that is where they seem to struggle. They don't really seem to be opening up all the walls that they want to get opened up. You saw it as well with Kayak. He decided to go for the highway on the roof, you know, the balcony, instead of opening up attic to start pushing internally. That got him into trouble in the end. So they just go for shortcuts, I'd say, in their last 30, 40 seconds, which really haven't been too thankful for them.
Well, that loud clunking will give the idea of where that Monty is and what he wants to do, and that's to take this corner. As you said, they're using him as a way in here. They're using him as that sort of step, and sure, the first person to meet would be the smoke, but it doesn't last very long. Kayak's able to pick up the cover there, and that is such a huge pick. Kayak with another one. Citizen was waiting for the drop and the double there, but here is that pickup player that's been able to lead themselves in. Ranchiro slips away. They're going to know that he's gone for a bit of a route round underneath, but that gives them the idea that there's only really 2 players on the site itself, and now there's only 1. Jonka swings round, gets another pickup here. Rafal is left a little bit wanting as they found the meeting room entirely empty, and now in a post-plant situation. Great take from great intel, but not enough now. Kayak with the triple. The drone gives the read that they've found their way underneath, and here, when they needed it most, G2, they've exploded.
There you have it, a Monty really working out, and I said it before the round even started, possibly to push through green, just to make sure that they don't really have all the pressure that comes through. Kayak as well was in the middle of the site already at the first 30 seconds of the site. That's how he managed to pick up both those kills. One, of course, in the rotate, Citizen saw the G2 Jaeger just fall dramatically into his line of sight. And of course, after that, they could decide to plant a meeting, but they decided to go for the kitchen instead. Take out BDS, who was still playing there, a player with that clutch potential, before they went to go for the diffuser and put this 45 on the board. Now BDS, they've decided to call their 45, which is turned into a minute actually, and go for the tactical timeout. It's not something we do often see from them. I've said it before.
I think that's it with BDS, is they know when they want to try and apply the pressure, and here there's 2 rounds left. Yep. G2 picked up a really good pace there. This timeout is just as much to have a conversation, but also just as much to break up G2 building some momentum. Because that is the flaw with G2. That is the flaw that we've seen on their attacks throughout this game alone, regardless of what else we take into this, is their momentum struggles in the later and latter half of a push. This is what this timeout is. Yeah. Let's slow it down again. Let's give it a little bit more space here.
Monty again being picked up. Has been revealed. 6th pick, of course, on the board. Has the opportunity to get out of it. And that's exactly what they do. It's a Lion instead. All right. So we might... Okay, Hungary still doubting. No, Lion it will be. E1D. So everybody on the defense will be spotted if they move as soon as that drone is active. No worries, it's not active over the entire round. You have three uses of 3 seconds, and there's also that 3-second prior call that comes through. So there's plenty of time to get yourself in a safe position. Or to make sure that you're standing still. It's just a bit awkward when you're in the middle of a gunfight and that thing goes off. Then you're probably best on just continuing that gunfight. Either way, 2 rounds is what G2 has. 2 rounds or 2 opportunities to lock out this first map here on Oregon and make sure that they take the lead to start off with.
I guess it was a conversation as well, based on the map selection, was Bank was Curiosities, because it's not really a good G2 map, but it is quite a good BDS map. I guess Oregon, we expect it to be a BDS map here as well. So maybe with the momentum, if they can lock this out here, going into Bank, which was their selection, we might be able to see something here from G2. And it's been a bit of a surprise showing so far for a lot of us, but let's see if they can keep that drive up. Obviously, Citizen on a 7-2 after the rehost, where he was on about a 12. Yeah, it was a 12 or a 13-3, has had a blinder.
It's definitely still showing up huge here for the side of G2, and will have to continue to do so, at least for these next 2 rounds, to make sure that they lock in map number 1. Of course, everything is reset to 0 right afterwards when we head over to map 2 Bank. That is going to be the worry, potentially, as well. 1 spot coming out of the E1D. Someone that will not be seen actually by Hungary. Knows that he's on the bottom of the stairs. It's Renshiro on the back stairs. First plateau. Just trying to get some information out. Being on those chems. Calling out to the rest of the team where he thinks the attack is going to be coming from. And you might not see them on the chems, but by the way that they die, you're also able to get some information here as an impact. Well, at least worry Kayak a little bit.
Renshiro is keeping an eye. They have that drone with the watch, and obviously they have the Lion as well. There goes the cam. There's the reveal that they are hot and heavy and kind of holding it off here, but that is going to allow Kayak to at least finish the work they need to do. It's a very important part of the play here, and there's nothing that is instantly trying to bite back against it. Just finishing off, they'll do another line, and then the whole hatch falls apart. Now, they can utilize this space and utilize this clarity to see if they can potentially burn their way down. The drone will go through first. They still have over a minute, but again, that end round timer is often the most decisive factor in a G2 approach here, and they've really got to start seeing if they can apply some pressure, potentially try and push some of these BDS players out of a position, because otherwise, they're still thoroughly locked in here.
Still a bunch of grenades left available on the G2 side. We have 1 on Virtue, 2 on Kayak, and 2 on Citizen. They have the opportunity here to force these last members of BDS out of the back line and really start pushing. As the first ones do start popping, it's another one to come right around the corner. The question is G2 going to drop right after them as the grenades just keep on going in?
Now, this is the longest we've had every single player on the board now, so you assume it's about to explode as soon as the push starts to come through. Shaiko is in a position to swing around here onto the door. The blinds start to come through, don't quite catch him. There's the E1D and the smokes to lock the door as well. A lot of people can't quite see, but Renshiro finds clarity, and Alems gets the follow-up there. It's battled back and forth, but finally, they've been able to take some ground, and with only a handful of seconds, the diffuser cold, they've got to see if they can find this last firefight. Brede locked in on the back line, gets the first take, and it's the smoke on Citizen! Just on the freezer swing!
Had to go for it. The Banshee there really slowed him down, and as you saw, he hesitated a little bit. He went through, the smoke came through, he went back, but then realized there's no time left and had to go through again. And that bit of hesitation is what killed him there in the end. Otherwise, it could have been the opportunity for him to lock it off, but we're heading to another round. It's 5-6, and BDS is looking to bring it back to an overtime situation. And Kids and Dorms is where they want to do so. Up to the top floor we go. And G2 need to attack once more. The Lion is being shown, but might be 6-picked out like we saw happen with the Monty before. There you have it. 6-pick comes through, and it will go back to a floor. So that is an operator we have seen before. Hungary, the one that is really flexing it out here, just picking whatever is necessary. And of course, this Flores with the RC Retiro. There's a lot of information, a lot of utility that he can gain. Especially if you look at the, well, bulletproof gadgets that are there for BDS. If they would have taken care of the Banshee in that previous round, Citizen wasn't slowed down as much, had a potential to actually kill Brede there.
BDS, 1 round separates you from OT, but remember, this is your map, so you kind of want to put some pressure back in here, even as just a lead-in to the 2 that we potentially have ahead of us, or maybe 1, depending on if they can replicate the game that went on a little bit earlier. Obviously, both these teams have already performed better than Na'Vi did, who were already quickly dispatched by a ferocious-looking Empire. Here, though, BDS, they've taken their time out, they've had the conversation, and as I pointed out in the previous round, the longest we'd had before an opening engagement had led to any sort of success, let alone just an opening engagement. The first scratches came under the minute mark. There was nothing that found themselves butting heads, and here it seems like BDS are doing a similar thing. We've seen them flirt with danger so often, and this time round they're just not really playing that game. Sure, Alems is in a position here where he's in Zulu Corridor, but last time he was in meeting, or he was in kitchen, or he was trying to find his way via dining. They're playing a little bit slower now.
It's a little pre-placed drones on the side of G2 to trying to get the information that is necessary to guide Citizen to his first kill. Rafale does have an open hatch to potentially drop back from. You see Citizens currently on that pillar just waiting for a potential drop or push to come through. And as Alems is about to swing around the corner on the freezer side of things just to help a little bit, just to protect the rotation possibilities a little bit, he might just as well be the very first victim of this round.
Oh, they are so close to lining it up, but Citizen once again strikes through, finds Alems, who has once again suffered on that early engagement here. Rafale is going to be the next step through on a multi-step process, and as you said, a lot of the pre-placed drones are still calling, but here it is. Citizen is going to drone for himself around the corner, gets the drop, and Rafale pulls out of there. He's going to see if he can stop. Sort of hoped that they would come through as the burn starts to come on the second story, but a minute 20 once again. They're trying to find their way through, and it's always worth remembering that last time here they were in a 5 versus 3 before they went for their push, and they still couldn't quite get the connection they needed. Shaiko able to thread a couple of kills on the site itself.
They need to get the added control here. Everything is set up for it, and the Citizen is coming right from below. He's being quite careful about someone being available in that kitchen or able to continue to stand there. A grenade will be tossed in and can catch Shaiko off guard. No, but does get the ADS though. Continues to push on as he does get taken out, as he gets the kill into BDS. There's only 2 members left on BDS though. It's Rafale and Shiro. They need to clutch this out if they want to live on, but it's Rafale left now and he's not on the site. Are G2 aware of this?
Well, he's trying to desperately make his way back up the bottom of White Stairs now, and Yonka's able to theoretically get the diffuser around there. Spraying and Scrappy and Virtue threads it together, and the first map goes the way of G2.
There you have it, the first one goes their way, and it could have been locked off just a little bit earlier if only that 5-1 scoreline would have come through. But G2 got that first map, got it here in Oregon, and they're heading over to Bank very soon. That one is the questionable one, given their, well, performances on Bank that we saw during Stage 3. It wasn't too flashy. This one definitely was, though. Citizen really stealing the show.
I have so many curiosities about Bank now. At the beginning of this, you looked at the maps and you sort of went, okay, it's Oregon, it's going to be a bit of a BDS showing, and then we're going to Bank where we don't really have a showing from G2, but we have an okay performance here from BDS. And now you're like, okay, G2, but I still have a couple of questions, and my main one is Citizen going to be able to keep up the pace that he's been able to apply so far?
I think that's the important question. Is Citizen going to be able to continue the current level that he's on, and is G2 as a whole going to be able to slow down Shaiko as much as they did during their defensive half? Those two together really allowed them to get that first half under control. But without further ado, let's just quickly throw to a break before we head over to the analysts.